Well, hello everybody and welcome back. Come on, let's go ahead. Let's go around. Hey, what's up? How are you? Come on, right here. Hello. And you, way up there. Hello. You want to see the family? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sober Psychology. This is the podcast where we strip away the fluffy BS and we dive headfirst into the raw, unfiltered truth about your mind, your life, and yeah, even your soul. I'm your host, Michael, a psychologist in training, a sober dad, and a guy who has won just as much as he's lost. If you're new here, go ahead and buckle up. We talk psychology like it's a street fight, not a tea party. No sugarcoating, just hard truths served with a side of dark humor to make the medicine go down just a little bit easier. Today we're tackling success or winning. It's that shiny carrot that society dangles in front of us like we're all donkeys chasing a mirage. You know, it's that kind of success that has you grinding 80 hours a week, popping Adderall like it's Tic Tacs, and wondering why your bank account is fat but your soul feels anorexic. We'll break it down psychologically, the highs that make you feel like a god, the lows that drag you to hell, and how Christians should handle this beast according to Scripture. And spoiler alert, it's not all prosperity gospel rainbows, so you can go ahead and take a back seat, Joel Osteen. I said it. I'm not worried about it. If you're listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Just do it right now. Just right now, hit that subscribe button. Please don't make me beg any more than what I already have. And if this episode slaps you in the face, which hopefully it will, go ahead and share it with that friend who's winning but secretly miserable. Let's get into it. Welcome to the show where we break down the mental health stigma, navigate sobriety with humor, and prove that it's okay to laugh while you heal. Let's get real, let's get honest, and maybe a little weird. Growth is messy, but you don't have to do it alone. This is Sober Psychology. Welcome back, all you beautiful people. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. As always, thank you for last week and the comments and the likes and the shares and the response. Thank you so very much. The last two have been pretty heavy as far as like politics. We're going to kind of stay away from that. This channel is not going to be centered around politics. I don't want to get into it. I don't care enough to get into it. That's for me. I don't want to argue with you about it. Anyways, we're going to dive in today about the successes, the wins, right? We're always harping on like these negatives and the obvious losses and the difficulties and the depressions and all that stuff. But what happens when we win and what happens when it gets a little bit too far? But before we dive into that, go ahead and get close with me here. I would really appreciate you if you would like, subscribe, comment, share. Any type of traction like that helps a ton. It really does. It warms my heart. I sleep better at night. So go ahead and do that now. You can see it. What is it going to be right here? Like, subscribe, comment, follow, whatever. As always, thank you for coming back. First off, why are we even talking about success? It's because in a world obsessed with hustling, and you can thank Gary Vee with the endless crush it memes, most of us are chasing wins without even asking at what cost. Psychologically, success is like cocaine. It feels amazing at first, but chase it wrong and you're left with a nosebleed and regret. We'll explore the pros, the dopamine rush that builds empires, the cons, which is the isolation, the burnout, and that nagging voice saying, is this it? Is this really all I got? And for my faith folks, what does the Bible say about winning without losing your eternal game? All right, so section 1, buckle up, we're diving right in. This is the psychological highs of success. Why winning feels like crack, but like legal crack. Can I say that? Whatever. All right, so let's start with the good stuff, the pros of success from a psychological lens. Because if we're getting real here, winning isn't all that bad. If it was, we'd all be hermits eating ramen in our parents' basement. Pop Psychology 101 for you here. Think about James Clear's Atomic Habits. He talks about how small wins compound into massive success. Psychologically, this taps into something called self-efficacy, which we've talked a lot about on this channel. That's a concept from Albert Bandura's social cognitive theory. If you want to go look that up, it'll also be at the very bottom of the show notes. Basically, Bandura's studies in the 1970s showed that when you succeed at something, even small tasks, just small, minor tasks, it begins to boost your belief and ability to tackle bigger ones, right? And this is the belief in yourself, right? It gives you that momentum. It's like leveling up in a video game. Each win unlocks new skills, confidence, and that sweet, sweet motivation loop that you can easily get into. The hard truth with all of this, if you're not chasing some form of success, you're probably depressed. You just feel like a drone. You're going you're punching in, punching out. What am I doing here? Kind of thing. Studies back this up. There's the Harvard Grant study, which is one of the longest running psychological studies ever, tracking 268 men from, I believe, since 1938. And it found that achievement in work and life correlates with higher life satisfaction, big time. But wait, it's not just money. It's the sense of purpose. Those guys who won at their careers reported better health, stronger relationships, up to a certain point, right? And we'll get into that a little bit later, the whole up to a certain point mentality here. But if you can imagine telling your therapist, Doc, I'm winning at life, but I feel empty. And your therapist is like, congrats, you're normal. But no, seriously, success activates your brain's reward system. Mihaly, I'm going to butcher his last name, but it's Csikszentmihalyi. Go look him up. I don't know. I'll have it at the bottom. But his flow theory from the 1990s explains this. When you're in the zone, you're crushing goals, time begins to just vanish and it disappears. And you feel euphoric almost. Athletes call it, the zone or the flow state, if you will. Entrepreneurs call it the hustle high. The pros of this is that it's going to give you increased resilience, better mental health for the short term. And then, a fat paycheck, which can ultimately buy you therapy sessions, hey. But let's get raw with all of this for a second, instead of it seeming like rainbows and unicorn farts. For Christians, this aligns with scripture in pretty cool ways. There's Proverbs 22:29, which says, do you see a man skilled in his work? He will stand before kings. And God wired us for excellence. Success is a byproduct of stewardship, though. And then Joshua 1:8 talks about meditate on the book of the law, and then you will be prosperous and successful. Winning is not anti-biblical. It's anti-idol. More on that soon. We're going to dive into that a little bit later. But here's a question for you. When is the last time a win made you feel alive? Drop it in the comments if you're watching, because I want to keep us engaged in this conversation. There's a lot to it. It would help me out a lot. But when is the last time that a win made you feel alive, genuinely alive? Okay. Section 2, this is going to be the dark side, when winning turns you into a miserable a-hole. Okay. This is the cons section of this, if you hadn't figured that out already. So we're going to flip the script just a little bit. The cons of success. This is where I'm going to get real and maybe hurt some feelings, because if you're listening to this while scrolling your yacht pics on Instagram, go ahead and buckle up. I got something for you. It's just cooking up right now. Psychologically, success is a trap. Okay, psychologically. You enter into this hedonic treadmill, if you will. It's a concept from Brickman and Campbell's 1971 study on lottery winners. They found that big wins like hitting the jackpot spike happiness temporarily, but people adapt and return to this baseline, right? You're running faster just to stay in place is kind of what I'm trying to say, I guess. Pop psychology's version of this, if you go look at Mark Manson, who wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, and I cannot recommend that book highly enough. That dude, he's got a great podcast too. Mark Manson, check him out. Again, it'll be in the references at the bottom, but he nails this. Chasing success for happiness is like chasing your tail. You end up exhausted and then biting your own ass. And that's a fantastic way of putting it, right? The hard truth, with maybe a little twist of humor in all of this, is that successful people are often the loneliest. The same Harvard Grant study, it concluded that relationships, not achievements, predict long-term happiness. Those winners who prioritize their careers over connections, they were a higher rate of being divorced, alcoholic, or dying earlier. Right? Imagine grinding to the top only to realize that the view sucks because you're all alone. Is it funny? Not really. Is it tragic? Absolutely. Right? Then We're going to talk about the imposter syndrome aspect of all of this, right? This hits high achievers very, very hard. And I struggle with imposter syndrome a lot. So I understand where we're coming from here. But there's a 1978 paper by Clance and Imes, I believe, that described it. It's feeling like a fraud despite evidence of success. Okay. The cons of all this: anxiety, self-sabotage, burnout. The World Health Organization classified this as a syndrome in 2019, linking it to chronic stress from winning cultures. The dark twist in all of it is success can make you a narcissist. Research from the Journal of Psychology in 2008, I believe, shows that power corrupts empathy. CEOs score higher on narcissistic traits. For Christians, this is where the Bible drops nukes, okay? In Ephesians 2, Solomon, who was, I guess, the ultimate winner by hedonic standards. He had wealth, he had wisdom, he had women. And he says it is all meaningless and chasing after the wind, right? The pros, I mean, sure, but cons, idolatry. You know, look at Matthew 6, 19 through 21, warns against storing treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy. All right, success without God, it's fool's gold. The hard truth is, if you're a Christian winning but ignoring the poor, like the rich man in Luke 16, you're heading for hellfire. No prosperity gospel fluff here. That's just Bible for you. All right? And you can laugh if you want, but imagine God saying, hey, congratulations on the Lambo, but you forgot the orphans, right? That's going to sting a little bit, right? I've dealt with this so much in my life, right? When I was faking and I had the mask on and I was pretending that I was somebody that I was not, I had success in business, and I was bumping shoulders with the 1%ers in the town that I was living in. And one of the guys that I worked with, he's on the Forbes 500 list, all right? Humble guy, really nice guy, seemed very genuine, drove an older truck, wasn't driving around in Lamborghinis and all this kind of stuff. Had a $3 million home, had his own helicopter that obviously has money, and had burned through 4 wives. He's 56 years old, has had 4 wives, has 3 kids, 2 of them with one woman and 1 of them with another. They're all spread out. Nobody wants to spend time with him. His family couldn't stand him. He wasn't close with anybody. He had this $3 million mansion and lives by himself, doesn't have anybody to celebrate life with, and was miserable all the time. And he and I had an open conversation about that. And that was one of the first eye-opening realizations, because I, at the time, was trying to chase what he had. All I wanted was the clout. I wanted the street cred. I wanted the fat bank account. And for where I was at, I was there. I had the money and I had the enjoyment of not having to worry about the check when I go out to eat somewhere. And I was miserable because I was doing it all for me. It was all for my glory. It was all and I didn't care. If someone came along and needed money, I would tell them I didn't have any. That's kind of what this guy was doing too. You'll find this as a very consistent theme with CEOs and top dogs, these people that are way up there. They have so many narcissistic traits because in order to become a high achiever, you fall into this reality that I gotta just get what's mine. You listen to like rap music, rap culture. I think that's been a huge shift too, where it's all about women and cars and clothes and you know, the jewelry and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, for what? You get all of that and then what? And success isn't even just from the financial standpoint. I mean, think about it from like the work. I just want that promotion. I just want that title bump. And then you work 80 hours a week for X amount of time. And then what? I live in a place out here in West Texas in the oil field. I know so many good-hearted human beings that fall into that trap too. They're working their tails off, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. They're getting called out at 11:30 at night, having to go to, one state over constantly. And they're working real hard and they're making great money, and they never get to see their family. And that's tough for me. You know how many people that live just in the neighborhood that I live in that have boats? I'm in the desert, by the way. There is no water out here. The nearest body of water where you could drop a boat into is two and a half hours away. These people have these boats and don't even get to use them. They go buy these vacation homes and don't even get to vacation, right? So that's what I'm talking about, where the success is just about getting to that point. And it's just for you. It's the self-glorification of it all, right? I digress. Moving on to section 3, balancing the scales, psychological tools to win without losing your mind, right? So pros and cons, they're laid bare. Now, do we handle this psychologically? So let's get practical. Let's get real here, because theory without action is just mental masturbation. I'm sorry. I needed the alliteration and I just went for it. But first, here we go. Psychological tools, ways to start working on this. First, you got to work on a mindset shift. All right. You can look at Carol Dweck's DWK, Carol Dweck's growth mindset from her 2006 book called Mindset. That's appropriate. A fixed mindset sees success as innate talent. It leads to fear of failure, right? And you want growth from that, you got to see it as effort. It builds resilience. So when you get into this mindset of thinking that, it's so fixed and it has to be this way, you get to this fear of failure. It's kind of that perfectionist mindset. And then you're always anxious and you're worried, I'm going to screw up. And then so you double down on something you probably shouldn't, right? If you're looking for growth, focus on the effort that you're putting into it. And that's difficult. This is a culture that doesn't really reward that as much. It should, but it doesn't. Okay. That effort that you're focusing on, that's going to help build the resilience. That's focusing on you, right? It's building that resilience. Anyways, in her study, her research on students showed that the growth mindset in kids bounced back from losses better when they were focusing on the effort as opposed to the end result. Okay. So it's just a little bit of that mindset shift. This is kind of like a pop psychology hack that we talk about so much. I'm going to beat this like a dead horse, but the gratitude journaling. Okay. And there was a 2003 study by Emmons and McCullough that found that's going to boost your well-being, which counters the hedonic adaptation of all of this. You write 3 wins daily, but then you tie them to some type of purpose. Okay. We've talked about journaling. I'll put it right there. And then you could borrow some ideas from AA. Treat your success like an addiction, like you need to get sober. So sobriety from addiction, or from success addiction at least. Set boundaries. No work after 7 p.m. This is research from the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology in 2010 shows that recovery time prevents burnout. You need to rest. There's a reason that the Sabbath exists. You have to rest, okay? You can't just burn yourself out. And I am so hypocritical when I'm saying that, because I will burn and burn and burn and burn until I've got nothing left. And then I'll rest. But at that point, I'm broken down, I'm weary, I'm tired, I'm grumpy, I don't have any motivation to do anything else. I've lost all faith in myself, all this kind of stuff. You don't want to get to that point. Know your level. I struggled a lot with this when I was in real estate, because I may miss a phone call at 9 o'clock at night, and that may be a client that I missed, because they will call someone who's going to pick the phone up at 9 o'clock. This hustle culture has shifted us and ruined us a little bit. I get it. There's a level and a balance to it, but be there, especially if you have a family. Even if you don't, and it's just you, shut down at like 7 p.m. Put your phone across the room, do something, go do you. Okay. This one's for my high achievers. This is another psychological tool, but you're not going to like it. I'm just going to say it, whether you like it or not. Therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. It reframes success distortions. There was a meta-analysis in 2012 by Hoffman that proves that it reduces anxiety in overachievers. Overachievers are tough. We're always on the gas pedal, always feel like we're doing something wrong, and it's tough. You have to get to this point where you're rewiring that success distortion in your brain. Now we're going to talk about the Christian angle of it. How should believers handle success? Well, biblically, it's stewardship, not ownership. Stewardship, not ownership. Stewardship, not ownership. All right? 1 Timothy 6, 7, I got to pull the Bible out, 17 through 19, I believe. Okay? Yeah, that's it. Command those who are rich not to be arrogant, nor put hope in wealth, but to be generous. I hope I didn't butcher that. The pros: use wins to bless others. The cons: avoided humility checks ego. Okay, Philippians 2:3, do nothing out of selfish ambition. It's a big one. Hard truth: if you're winning but not tithing or serving, you're a Pharisee. clean outside, dead inside. Go read Matthew 23 for me. The stories like David succeeded as king but fell with Bathsheba. Success bred entitlement for him. All right, you think of it that way. Lessons. The lesson with all of that, I guess, would be stay grounded in prayer. Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction. Stay grounded. The integration with psychology and the Bible equals power. This is that's what I'm trying to do, is mesh all of this together for you to give you answers from both approaches, put them together, show you how they work together so you can move forward. You use this flow state for a God glorifying work. All right, Colossians 3:23, work heartily as for the Lord, but Sabbath, rest, Exodus 20, to avoid burnout. Raw advice with all of this is if success tempts you to sin, you need to ditch it immediately, okay? Better poor and faithful than to be rich and damned. Better poor and faithful than to be rich and damned. We got to start putting some stuff on t-shirts. Think about it. Like, Jesus won by losing. Crossover crown. Crossover crown. We're still doing it. Ultimate psychological twist in all of this is true success is surrender. It's paradoxical, and I understand how difficult that can be for analytical human beings who just want to be able to get our hands on something. But in order to gain your life, you must lose it. You must pick up your cross, follow daily, right? Like, this is the hardest part about it. Jesus didn't show up and get bags. Jesus wasn't riding around in Lambos. He wasn't getting on the prettiest horse. He had a donkey. He had a mule. Okay? And so we have to understand this concept of prioritizing correctly. And when you prioritize correctly, then all of a sudden the success, if my heart's in the right place and I go bust my tail for a week to work really hard, and then God presents an opportunity for me to be able to help out a neighbor financially or whatever, and I'm able to do that, as opposed to saying, oh no, that's my money, I worked hard for it. Like, you see the shift in the heart there? That's all I'm saying, all right? So section 4 of this, I want to kind of make this like a Q&A. So I've been getting some DMs, and I want to try and address these. I'm not going to name anybody who's DM'd me, but I do want to address some of the questions that are relevant to this topic. And I think this may be cool. It's the first time we're doing it, so we'll try it out. Real Q&A with sober psychology. All right, answers to your burning questions on success. Okay, so in order to keep this engaging, we're just going to pretend like we're live, pretending that you're hitting me with hypotheticals based on the common DMs that I get. Okay, so question 1. Michael, I'm winning at work, but my marriage sucks. Help! Question mark, exclamation mark. Okay, I would say, from a psychological perspective, look at attachment theory. We talk about John Bowlby a lot on this channel, but look at attachment theory. It says that success strains bonds if you're avoidant. Pay attention to that. The fix for it all, prioritize date nights. Studies from the Gottman Institute shows the 5-to-1 positive to negative interactions save marriages. You got to make an effort. Love is not an adjective. Love is a verb. Choose to love your partner. Choose to love your partner more than you love your success at your job. Make an effort, okay? From a biblical stance on this, Ephesians 5:25. Husbands, love like Christ. The hard truth is that if success costs your family, you're losing. Divorce court awaits, baller. Anyways, next question. What if I'm afraid of success? All right, I'm going to give you a pop psychology answer on that. Sabotage from fear of change. Okay, that's what I would say. That's how I would categorize that. The study behind that is the Fear of Success Scale by Horner, I believe, did that one in 1968. But that links it to gender roles, but it is universal. So check that out. And then from the Bible standpoint, 2 Timothy 1:7 says, God didn't give fear. Okay, so push through with faith. All right. You got more questions on that, like on imposter syndrome or lottery regrets, or like I won big and I'm miserable, all this kind of stuff. Keep the flow dynamic. That's all I could say to you. Keep the flow dynamic. Like, find that flow state that you have with God. Find that flow state that you have with the small tasks, one at a time, right? It's not easy to do. We live in a world that glorifies success only. We've got Instagram just giving you highlight reels. You know how many parenting things I've looked at where it's only showing the good side of the kids? They're not showing you late nights with your kids screaming at 3 o'clock in the morning, the blowout diapers that are just getting everywhere. They're not showing all of that stuff. They're just showing the wins because they want to look pretty, and it gets likes, and then you get followers, and then you get monetized, and you know that's a tough world to live in. So I get it. Out here in the oil field culture, it's all about how many hours did you put in on your paycheck, because that matters more than anything else, is getting $300,000 a year with 200 of that being in overtime hours at the expense of spending time with your family or resting, having time for yourself. The conclusion on all this, wrapping this up, your action plan to win the right way, this is going to be tough. We've covered a lot. The highs of success that light up your brain like fireworks, the lows that leave you in the dark, but psychological tools to balance it, and Bible wisdom to keep it holy. All right, so the key takeaway, success isn't the enemy, your approach is. Psychologically, chase it with purpose, not ego. Biblically, use it for God's glory, not yours. And the hard truth is that most winners are losers in disguise, rich but wretched. Oh my gosh, I'm rolling today, folks. Do not be the rich but wretched person, okay? So the call to action is reflect this week. What's one win that you're chasing in the wrong way? Journal it, pray on it. Talk to me about it. Subscribe for more raw psychological nonsense. That's what we're doing. Next week, we're going to be talking about cheating and adultery, so it's going to be pretty heavy. Buckle up if you want to be there for that. Episode should release Wednesday or Thursday. Till then, keep the comments alive. Leave a review on Spotify, comment on YouTube. What is your biggest success regret? Let me know. I want to hear it. All right. As always, thank you for tuning in to Sober Psychology. I'm Michael. Keep your head up, keep your heart open, and go help somebody. Love you guys.